David, how you doing? I got your fiber optic poster up here. I got the front. You have the front up and then you have the back. And I want to, the way that this is set up is that we have the back and the front. We looked at the front but I kind of want to look at both right now, and there's a reason for this. But I want to look at the front because I think that this is a perfect case. I said this once before. I can't remember what week, but it was either last week. I think it was last week. I said that this is a perfect candidate for a horizontal layout, and I still think it is for two reasons. Number one, fiber optic cables are laid horizontally. That alone should indicate a horizontal layout. I think that just by sheer nature, when one thinks of fiber optic cable, they think of, laying them across a horizon, or even at the ocean floor, or all the stuff we've read about laying fiber optic cables. And it all indicates that those are being laid horizontally. So again, I think that points to some strengths in considering a horizontal layout. The other thing is that this right up here is a perfect indication that this would be much more accommodated with a horizontal layout, because you've got fiber optics that's stacked on top of each other. I wonder if it wouldn't be better to put optics to the right, so just have one line of text here instead of stacking that. Fiber optics, Charles Krug. And of course, to do that, you would have to have that horizontal layout I talked about. Now, as far as the back goes, I think this really, really screams horizontal layout, definitely, because right now it's just so difficult to try to read these lines and then to come down, read down, then come over here and then read down. It's just, I think it would just be so much more accommodating as a horizontal layout. The other thing over here is there's a couple of things happening with the cover here, the front side of the poster, I think, that are working against you. Number one is everything is jammed up here to the top half of the composition. So if you roll your chair away from your desk just about 6 feet or so, or 8 feet, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It's like everything is bunched right up here. There's nothing down here, so it's very imbalanced. The next thing I'm noticing is that it almost for sure looks like you have stretched this type to fit the space given, and as we don't do that. You never want to stretch type horizontally or vertically without constraining its original proportions. So if you're gonna place the text and then try to resize it, make sure you hold that shift key down when you're dragging that corner anchor point. That will constrain the original proportions, and it will stop any kind of strange stretching of. Now this could be a PDF rendering, but this almost for sure, I would say that this type has been horizontally stretched to accommodate the space. Okay, the back side. Now the back, I think, is really difficult to read. One of the main reasons is because it's kind of a daunting task to look at the poster at first. It's not very inviting, David, and the reason I say that is because there's no real judicious use of white space. Right now, it looks like you just want to jam everything into the corners and really jump everything to the margins. And this is your only white space over here, and I'm not even really sure if that was intentional. So my request or requirement here would be to recompose this. Now, this is 17 inches, which means this typeface is enormous. I'll bet you're pushing 16 here. So really, really think about that. That typeface should be much, much smaller for your body copy. Now, right now, your body copy, your timeline type is larger than your body copy. Is that what you want? Do you want the viewer to come down here to the attention to be drawn to the timeline first? Because if you don't, then that's what's happening just by sheer nature of the size of the typeface you're using. So let's talk about typography in general. Now, you've got a couple of things working here. I think working against you is your rags. Remember, we don't want any kind of patterns or wavy patterns. You want long line, short line, long line, short line. Like your first 4 lines here are great. You have long, short, long, and actually your first 4 or 5 lines are okay. But then you start getting just this kind of right here, you just get this big wave. And then you have another wave right here, whoop, right there. And then you have another wave right here, whoop. Do you see what I'm saying? So you don't want that in typography. You want your rags to be more even than that. So those will have to be more evenly distributed. You're indenting a full 5 or 6 spaces. You really only need to indent about 3 spaces. In very short line lengths like this, You have a good character count, I think, but the one thing I noticed that there's a couple of orphans. Where did I see an orphan? Oh, there it is right there. Here's another. Okay, I know that's of course a word sitting on a line by itself. Don't want that. But so, anyways, I think that right now, I think the main thing is that your timing and cadence is a little bit forced because there's no judicious use of negative space. So I would recommend revisiting your type sizes and just really think about delivering the biography as a series of maybe 4 columns of type or 3 columns of type instead of just 1 column. That's kind of a daunting task to look into it and go, okay, I got to read this whole thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Maybe split that up a little bit. Okay, and then of course I think there's a real disconnect here between the visual posture of the front of the poster and the back of the poster, and that's no surprise because when you design the back of the poster, you actually design it for your original poster back. Remember that first iteration where you submitted the front of the poster, and we changed that considerably, but the back of the poster still is holding the same visual tenor as that first edition of the first iteration of the front of your poster. So think about that. Think about getting some visual continuity here between the front and the back. All right, any questions at all, please feel free to let me know. Thanks, David.